Question 1. Topic: Veterinary medicine and animal health law. During a comprehensive review of a process that needs improvement, a state legislature is considering amendments to its veterinary malpractice laws. One proposed change would redefine the legal damages available to pet owners in malpractice cases. Under the current law, damages are limited to the fair market value of the pet. The new bill, however, would allow emotional distress damages for wrongful injury or death of a companion animal. Which of the following legal arguments is most likely to be raised against this bill? A. Emotional distress damages should not apply to pets because animals are legally considered property in most jurisdictions. B. Expanding damages for veterinary malpractice would create excessive financial burdens for veterinary professionals, violating due process rights. C. The bill would contradict the Veterinary Practice Act, which limits legal claims against veterinarians to contract-based disputes only. D. Courts have consistently that companion animals are entitled to the same level of legal protection as humans in personal injury claims. Answer A. Emotional distress damages should not apply to pets because animals are legally considered property in most jurisdictions. Explanation: in the majority of U.S. jurisdictions, animals are classified as property under common law, meaning that damages for their loss are typically limited to their market value. While courts have occasionally recognized the sentimental value of pets, most legal systems do not allow emotional distress damages in veterinary malpractice cases. Why is correct? Courts generally reject claims for emotional distress damages in pet-related cases because pets are property. The legal system differentiates between property and sentient beings with legal rights. The landmark case Strickland v. Medland, Texas, Supreme Court reaffirms that owners could not claim emotional damages for a pet's wrongful death. YB is incorrect. The argument about financial burdens and due process is not strong constitutional claim, as veterinary malpractice suits are governed by civil tort principles, not constitutional law. YC is incorrect. While veterinary practice acts regulate professional conduct, they do not necessarily preclude tort-based claims such as negligence or malpractice. YD is incorrect. No legal precedent in U.S. law equates the legal protection of companion animals to human personal injury claims. This question helps students understand the intersection of property law and veterinary malpractice law. Question 2. Animals in agriculture and farming law. In a situation where formal requirements conflict with practical enforcement mechanisms, a state agricultural board is debating whether to adopt stricter regulations on the use of organic and cage-free labels for poultry products. A newly proposed regulation would require all producers to provide video surveillance footage of farm conditions to ensure compliance. Which of the following legal is most relevant in determining the constitutionality of this regulation? A. The regulation may violate the Fourth Amendment by imposing unreasonable searches and seizures on private agricultural businesses. B. The regulation would be preempted by the Federal Trade Commission, FTC, which has sole authority over labeling regulations. C. The regulation violates the Animal Welfare Act, WAP, by imposing state restrictions on federally regulated farming practices. D. The regulation would fail because cage-free and organic labels have no legal definition under existing federal law. Answer A. The regulation may violate the Fourth Amendment by imposing unreasonable searches and seizures on private agricultural businesses. Explanation: the Fourth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution protects against unreasonable searches and seizures, including in the context of regulatory enforcement. Government-mandated video surveillance could be considered an excessive intrusion into private business operations without proper legal safeguards. Why is correct? Courts have ruled in cases like Marshall v. Barlows Inc. that regulatory inspections require either consent or warrant unless there is compelling government interest. Forcing farmers to install cameras could be seen as warrantless surveillance program, which might be challenged on constitutional grounds. YB is incorrect. The FTC does regulate certain consumer labeling practices, but it does not have sole authority over food labeling. But USDA and FDA also play roles in regulating food product claims. YC is incorrect. The AWAC primarily applies to research animals and does not govern agricultural food production practices, making it irrelevant to the proposed law. YD is incorrect. Both cage-free and organic are legally defined under USDA regulations, including requirements for living conditions and feed standards. This question highlights the constitutional and regulatory challenges involved in animal product labeling laws. Question 3. Topic: criminal law and animal cruelty while investigating a complicated issue between different enforcement agencies. A prosecutor is preparing to charge a dogfighting ring under both federal and state animal cruelty laws. However, the defendants argue that their activities are protected under the First Amendment as a form of cultural expression. Which legal principle best supports the prosecution's case? A. The government has compelling interest in preventing animal cruelty, which outweighs free speech protections. B. The First Amendment does not apply to cases involving commercial enterprises such as dogfighting. C. Cultural traditions are not protected under U.S. law when they conflict with state statutes. D. Dogfighting is only illegal if it occurs in public setting, making the prosecution's case invalid for private fights. Answer A. The government has a compelling interest in preventing animal cruelty, which outweighs free speech protections. Explanation. While the First Amendment protects freedom of expression, courts have consistently ruled that preventing animal cruelty is a compelling government interest that justifies legal restrictions on activities such as dogfighting. Why is correct. In United States v. Stevens, the Supreme Court ruled that laws banning depicting animal cruelty must be narrowly tailored, but this does not extend to actual acts of cruelty which are not protected speech. The Animal Fighting Prohibition Enforcement Act criminalizes dogfighting, and courts have upheld its constitutionality. Why B is incorrect. The First Amendment applies broadly, including to commercial activities. However, the issue here is not whether it applies, but whether preventing animal cruelty is a sufficient government interest. Override free speech concerns. Why C is incorrect. U.S. courts do consider cultural traditions, but such traditions do not override state and federal laws, particularly those concerning criminal conduct. For example, laws against cockfighting have been upheld despite cultural defenses. Why D is incorrect. Dogfighting is illegal regardless of whether it occurs in public or private. The prosecution does not need to prove public visibility to secure a conviction under federal and state laws. This challenges students to analyze the intersection of constitutional law and animal cruelty laws. Question 4. In a high-stakes environment where multiple challenges arise in regulating the treatment of animals used in research, a state legislature is considering new regulations that would require all research institutions to submit detailed annual reports on their animal testing practices. These reports would be made publicly available. The proposed law also mandates that institutions implement alternative testing methods whenever feasible. Opponents argue that such requirements would impose excessive financial burdens and violate proprietary research protections. Given existing federal regulations, including the Animal Welfare Act, which of the following legal arguments would best support the state's authority to impose these additional requirements? A. The state law is unconstitutional because federal law, through the AWA, fully occupies the field of animal research regulation, preempting state laws. B. The state law is valid because the AWA sets minimum standards, allowing states to impose stricter animal welfare protections as long as they do not directly contradict federal law. C. The state law is invalid because it infringes on the rights of private institutions to conduct research without government interference under the Commerce Clause. D. The state law is unenforceable because only the federal government has the authority to regulate institutions that conduct research involving animals. Answer. B. The state law is valid because the AWA sets minimum standards, allowing states to impose stricter animal welfare protections as long as they do not directly contradict federal law. Explanation. The Animal Welfare Act AWA establishes baseline standards for the humane treatment of animals in research, but does not prevent states from enacting more stringent regulations. The doctrine of federal preemption applies in areas where federal law is comprehensive. It occupies the field, leaving no room for state regulation. However, in this case, the AWA does not expressly preempt stricter state laws. Courts have generally upheld state laws imposing additional protections for animals, provided they do not directly conflict with federal regulations. Option is incorrect because the AWA does not preempt all state regulations concerning animal testing. It sets minimum standards rather than fully occupying the field. Option C is incorrect because while the Commerce Clause grants the federal government authority to regulate interstate commerce, it does not bar states from enacting additional consumer protection or animal welfare laws that apply within their borders. Option D is incorrect because states retain the power to regulate research institutions within their jurisdiction, provided their regulations do not contradict federal laws. By allowing additional protections, The state law is legally sound under the principle that states may expand upon but not contradict federal minimum standards. Question 5. While investigating a complicated issue between different local governments regarding the enforcement of breed-specific legislation (BL), a state Supreme Court is reviewing a case where a city enacted an ordinance banning certain dog breeds, including pit bulls and Rottweilers, based on safety concerns. A resident challenges the ordinance, arguing that it violates both due process and equal protection under the law. Strongest constitutional argument against the ordinance. A. The ordinance violates the Fourth Amendment because it allows for arbitrary searches and seizures of certain dog breeds. B. The ordinance violates the Fifth Amendment's takings clause because it forces owners to surrender their property without just compensation. C. The ordinance violates the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment because it discriminates against owners based on breed ownership without a rational basis. D. The ordinance is unconstitutional under the Supremacy Clause because federal law prohibits states from regulating specific dog breeds. Answer. C. The ordinance violates the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment because it discriminates against owners based on breed ownership without a rational basis. Explanation. The strongest argument against breed-specific legislation (BSL) is that it violates the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment by treating dog owners differently based on breed ownership without sufficient evidence that such laws effectively prevent attacks. Courts have often examined whether such laws are rationally related to a legitimate government interest. Rational basis review. Option is incorrect because the Fourth Amendment concerns unreasonable searches and seizures, but a general ban on certain breeds does not inherently authorize unlawful searches. Option B is incorrect because the takings clause applies when the government physically takes property for public use, but BSL typically involves regulation, not compensation for seized animals. Option D is incorrect because there is no federal law preempting states from regulating dangerous breeds. The Supremacy Clause applies when state law contradicts federal law, which is not the case here. Courts assessing BSL challenges weigh public safety concerns against property and due process rights, often finding that blanket breed bans are arbitrary and may fail the rational basis test. Question 6. During an emergency response where multiple areas are impacted by a natural disaster, several animal shelters refuse to admit certain animals, citing resource shortages and liability concerns. A group of displaced pet owners sues the local government, arguing that the refusal to accommodate their animals violates their constitutional rights. Which of the following legal principles is most relevant to their claim? A. The public trust doctrine, which requires the government to protect natural resources, including animals, for public benefit. B. The Americans with Disabilities Act (ADA), which mandates that service animals be accommodated in public spaces, including emergency shelters. C. The Commerce Clause, which prohibits states from restricting the movement of goods and services, including animals, across state lines. D. The Takings Clause, which prevents government from confiscating private property without just compensation. Answer. B. The Americans with Disabilities Act (ADA), which mandates that service animals be accommodated in public spaces, including emergency shelters. Explanation. Under the Americans with Disabilities Act (ADA), public accommodations, including emergency shelters, must allow service animals to accompany their owners even during disaster response efforts. Federal guidance from agencies like FEMA reinforces this obligation to accommodate individuals with disabilities and their service animals. Option is incorrect because the public trust doctrine primarily applies to natural resources, e.g. wildlife, water, rather than domesticated pets in emergency shelters. Option C is incorrect because the Commerce Clause governs economic activity between states, not emergency shelter policies. Option D is incorrect because while the Takings Clause addresses government confiscation of property, it does not apply here, as shelters are refusing to admit animals rather than taking them. Federal disaster relief policies recognize that refusing to accommodate service animals may constitute discrimination under the ADA, making this the most relevant legal principle. Question 7. In an industry where ethical and legal concerns frequently intersect, a large agricultural company is sued under state animal cruelty laws for its confinement practices involving egg-laying hens. The company argues that its practices comply with federal regulations under the Egg Products Inspection Act (EPA) and that state cruelty laws are preempted. What is the strongest legal argument in favor of allowing the state regulate animal welfare in agricultural settings? A. The Supremacy Clause prevents states from regulating industries already covered by federal law, so the state law is invalid. B. The Dormant Commerce Clause prohibits state laws that impose restrictions on out-of-state agricultural businesses. C. The Police Powers Doctrine allows states to enact animal welfare laws as long as they do not directly contradict federal statutes. D. The Fifth Amendment protects private businesses from government regulation of their operations. Answer: C. The Police Powers Doctrine allows states to enact animal welfare laws as long as they do not directly contradict federal statutes. Explanation: under the Police Powers Doctrine, states have broad authority to regulate health, safety, and welfare, including animal welfare laws, unless explicitly preempted by federal law. The Eight Products Inspection Act (EPIA) primarily regulates egg safety and processing rather than animal confinement practices, meaning state cruelty laws may still apply. Option is incorrect because while the Supremacy Clause ensures federal law takes precedence over conflicting state law, courts have held that EPIA does not fully preempt state animal welfare laws. Option B is incorrect because the Dormant Commerce Clause limits discriminatory or protectionist state laws, but this case involves animal cruelty regulations, not interstate trade restrictions. Option D is incorrect because the Fifth Amendment applies to takings or regulations that deprive property owners of economic value, which is not the case here. State animal welfare laws are upheld when they supplement, rather than contradict, federal agricultural regulations. Question 8. When evaluating a constitutional challenge against a city's decision to ban pet ownership above a certain number of animals, group of pet owners claims that the ordinance violates their substantive due process rights. Under what legal standard would court likely review this claim? A. Strict scrutiny because pet ownership is a fundamental right protected under the Constitution. B. Intermediate scrutiny because animal-related laws must serve an important government interest without being overly restrictive. C. Rational basis review because pet ownership is not a fundamental right and the government only needs legitimate reason for the law. D. Heightened scrutiny because the law affects personal autonomy and lifestyle choices. Answer: C. Rational basis review because pet ownership is not a fundamental right and the government only needs a legitimate reason for the law. Explanation: pet ownership is not a fundamental right under the Constitution, meaning courts typically apply rational basis review to laws regulating it. Under this standard, a law is constitutional as long as it is rationally related to a legitimate government interest, such as public health, safety, or animal welfare. Option is incorrect because strict scrutiny applies to laws restricting fundamental rights, e.g. free speech, privacy, and pet ownership does not qualify. Option B is incorrect because intermediate scrutiny applies in cases involving gender discrimination or certain free speech issues, which are irrelevant here. Option D is incorrect because heightened scrutiny is mainly used for suspect classifications like discrimination based on gender or sexual orientation, not pet ownership. Courts generally uphold animal ownership restrictions when they serve public welfare and are not arbitrary. Question 9. While conducting a legal analysis of different approaches to animal rights in international trade, a government agency is considering imposing import restrictions on foreign companies that fail to meet U.S. animal welfare standards. Which of the following legal principles is most relevant in determining whether such a restriction is valid? A. The World Trade Organization ILO agreements, which prohibit unjustified trade barriers based on domestic preferences. B. The Commerce Clause, which allows states to regulate international trade. C. The Animal Welfare Act of WAP, which governs animal treatment in research and exhibition settings. D. The First Amendment, which protects individuals from government-imposed moral viewpoints. Answer A. The World Trade Organization (WTO) agreements which prohibit unjustified trade barriers based on domestic preferences. Explanation: the World Trade Organization (WTO) agreements regulate international trade and prohibit discriminatory trade restrictions unless justified under specific exceptions, such as public health or environmental concerns. If the U.S. imposes import restrictions on animal welfare grounds, it must demonstrate that the restrictions are necessary and not a disguised trade barrier. Option B is incorrect because the Commerce Clause applies to domestic trade regulation, while international trade falls under federal jurisdiction. Option C is incorrect because the Animal Welfare Act of WAP applies to U.S. facilities, not foreign imports. Option D is incorrect because the First Amendment protects speech and expression, not international trade policies. Trade restrictions based on animal welfare concerns must comply LU rules to avoid legal disputes. Question 10. In a case involving the seizure of animals from a private rescue organization, the organization claims that the government's actions violated their procedural due process rights. What must the organization demonstrate to succeed in its claim? A. That the government acted without warrant, making the seizure unconstitutional under the Fourth Amendment. B. That the organization had protected property interest in the animals and was not given proper notice or an opportunity to contest the seizure. C. That animal rescues have constitutional rights equivalent to private individuals and cannot be subject to government oversight. D. That the government violated the takings clause by failing to compensate the organization for the seized animals. Answer B. That the organization had a protected property interest in the animals and was not given proper notice or an opportunity to contest the seizure. Explanation. To establish a procedural due process violation, the rescue organization must show that it had a protected property interest in the animals. The government seized the animals without proper notice or an opportunity to be heard. Courts analyze due process under the Matthews v. Eldridge balancing test, which considers the private interest at stake, the risk of erroneous deprivation, and the government's interest in enforcement. Option is incorrect because while the Fourth Amendment protects against unlawful searches, animal seizures are often administrative actions requiring due process challenges rather than search warrant claims. Option C is incorrect because animal rescues, as organizations, do not have broad constitutional protections like individuals. They are subject to government oversight. Option D is incorrect because the takings clause applies to land or physical property for public use, not seized animals due to welfare violations. Successful claim requires showing that the seizure process violated due process rights, not that animal rescues are immune from regulation. Question 11. When developing a solution that must address opposing needs, a policy change is proposed that balances both environmental protection and industrial growth. Which of the following principles would best justify such a balanced approach? A. The precautionary principle, which prioritizes environmental protection by requiring proof of safety before allowing industrial expansion. B. Cost-benefit analysis, which evaluates the financial and economic trade-offs of environmental regulations. C. The public trust doctrine, which asserts that natural resources should be preserved for public use. D. Regulatory capture, which describes a scenario where industries regulation to favor their interests. Answer B. Cost-benefit analysis, which evaluates the financial and economic trade-offs of environmental regulations. Explanation. A cost-benefit analysis (CBA) is widely used in policy decisions to balance economic growth with environmental sustainability. It helps determine whether the benefits of an industrial project outweigh the environmental and societal costs. Option is incorrect because the precautionary principle prioritizes risk prevention, often leading to stricter environmental controls without necessarily considering economic growth. Option C is incorrect because the public trust doctrine applies primarily to government responsibilities over natural resources, rather than balancing industry and environmental needs. Option D is incorrect because regulatory capture refers to industry-dominated policies, which would undermine a balanced approach. A well-executed CBA ensures sustainable development while minimizing harm to the environment. Question 12. During an emergency response where multiple areas are impacted by a cybersecurity attack, what should be the primary focus of the response team in the first phase of mitigation? A. Identifying the source of the breach to prevent future attacks. B. Minimizing system downtime to ensure business continuity. C. Protecting sensitive data to prevent unauthorized access or leaks. D. Notifying all stakeholders immediately about the security breach. Answer C. Protecting sensitive data to prevent unauthorized access or leaks. Explanation. The first priority in a cybersecurity emergency is protecting sensitive data, as data breaches can lead to legal, financial, and reputational damage. Option is incorrect because identifying the source of the breach is important but should follow immediate containment efforts. Option B is incorrect because restoring systems should come after securing critical assets. Option D is incorrect because notifying stakeholders is part of a later phase after securing the network. Immediate damage control involves isolating compromised systems, securing access points, and protecting data before further action. Question 13. In a situation where formal requirements conflict with practical implementation, an organization struggles to comply with new industry regulations that significantly slow down production. Which approach would best resolve this issue? A. Adopting automation tools to streamline compliance while maintaining efficiency. B. Challenging the regulation legally, arguing that it imposes an unreasonable burden. C. Seeking an exemption from the regulatory body for special considerations. D. Modifying internal processes to prioritize compliance over productivity. Correct answer A. Adopting automation tools to streamline compliance while maintaining efficiency. Explanation: when compliance conflicts with efficiency, automation can help integrate new requirements while minimizing operational disruptions. Option B is incorrect because legal challenges are costly and may not succeed. Option C is incorrect because exemptions are rare and not a sustainable solution. Option D is incorrect because prioritizing compliance at the expense of efficiency may lead to financial losses. A technology-driven solution ensures long-term adherence to regulations without sacrificing productivity. Question 14. While analyzing the root causes of sequential problems in a manufacturing facility, engineers discover a pattern of mechanical failures occurring after software updates. What is the most effective strategy to prevent future occurrences? A. Delaying software updates until mechanical adjustments are tested. B. Conducting integrated testing between software and hardware before deployment. C. Reverting to manual processes to minimize dependency on software. D. Increasing machine maintenance schedules to counteract software-induced failures. Answer: B. Conducting integrated testing between software and hardware before deployment. Explanation: integrated testing ensures that software updates do not disrupt hardware functions by identifying issues before deployment. Option A is incorrect because delaying updates may introduce security risks. Option C is incorrect because reverting to manual processes is not scalable. Option D is incorrect because maintenance addresses symptoms, not the root cause. Comprehensive testing prevents system conflicts before they escalate. Question 15. In a high-stakes environment where multiple challenges affect decision-making, a business must allocate resources between research and production. What is the most effective allocation strategy? A. Prioritizing production to meet immediate market demand. B. Focusing on research to secure long-term innovation. C. Balancing investment based on market trends and competitive analysis. D. Outsourcing one function to maximize internal efficiency. Answer: C. Balancing investment based on market trends and competitive analysis. Explanation: a balanced strategy ensures short-term revenue generation while fostering long-term innovation. Option A is incorrect because over-prioritizing production can lead to stagnation. Option B is incorrect because excessive research may slow market responsiveness. Option D is incorrect because outsourcing key functions can compromise control. Strategic investment based on market trends helps sustain competitiveness. Question 16. When implementing new protocols in a shared environment, a company faces resistance from employees who prefer the old system. What approach is most likely to lead to successful adoption? A. Mandating immediate compliance with no exceptions. B. Providing training and demonstrating benefits to employees. C. Allowing departments to opt out based on their preferences. D. Delaying implementation indefinitely until full agreement is reached. Answer: B. Providing training and demonstrating benefits to employees. Explanation: training and demonstrating tangible benefits help employees embrace change more effectively. Option is incorrect because forcing compliance creates resistance. Option C is incorrect because opting out prevents standardization. Option D is incorrect because delays hinder progress. A structured transition ensures better engagement and adaptation. Question 17. During a major transformation where existing methods become obsolete, what is the most important factor in ensuring long-term success? A. Continuous assessment of process effectiveness. B. Minimizing initial disruptions to maintain stability. C. Maintaining legacy systems as a backup plan. D. Ensuring leadership approval before making changes. Answer: A. Continuous assessment of process effectiveness. Explanation: long-term success depends on continuous assessment to ensure new methods remain effective. Option B is incorrect because focusing on stability over adaptation can lead to stagnation. Option C is incorrect because relying on old systems prevents true transformation. Option D is incorrect because leadership approval alone does not ensure effectiveness. Ongoing evaluation leads to sustainable improvements. Question 18. During a situation where multiple stakeholders have conflicting interests, what is the most effective way to reach a resolution? A. Facilitating an open dialogue to find common ground. B. Prioritizing the demands of the most influential stakeholder. C. Compromising by splitting resources evenly among all parties. D. Delaying the decision until the conflict resolves itself. Answer A. Facilitating an open dialogue to find common ground. Explanation. Facilitating open dialogue ensures that all perspectives are considered, leading to a balanced and sustainable resolution. Option B is incorrect because favoring one party creates resentment. Option C is incorrect because splitting resources evenly may not address actual needs. Option D is incorrect because delaying action can escalate the conflict. A collaborative approach fosters long-term cooperation. Question 19. While ensuring compliance with new industry regulations, a company realizes that some departments are struggling to adapt. What is the best course of action? A. Providing targeted training and support for affected teams. B. Enforcing strict penalties for non-compliance. C. Reducing regulatory requirements to ease the transition. D. Allowing each department to interpret the regulations independently. Answer A. Providing targeted training and support for affected teams. Explanation. Training and support help employees understand and implement regulatory changes effectively. Option B is incorrect because penalties don't address the root cause of non-compliance. Option C is incorrect because reducing requirements can lead to legal risks. Option D is incorrect because inconsistent interpretations cause compliance issues. Structured training program ensures adherence to industry standards. Question 20. During an evaluation of cost-saving measures that impact productivity, which approach would be the most effective? A. Identifying inefficiencies that can be eliminated without reducing output. B. Cutting employee salaries to reduce expenses. C. Eliminating resources used by lower-performing departments. D. Reducing staff to lower overall costs. Answer A. Identifying inefficiencies that can be eliminated without reducing output. Explanation. Eliminating inefficiencies preserves productivity while achieving cost savings. Option B is incorrect because salary cuts, low morale and retention. Option C is incorrect because removing resources hinders performance. Option D is incorrect because reducing staff can lead to overworked employees. A balanced cost savings strategy maintains efficiency and sustainability. Question 21. When implementing backup procedures across various departments, an organization faces inconsistencies in data synchronization. What is the best approach to ensure reliable data recovery in case of system failure? A. Using real-time replication across all systems to avoid discrepancies. B. Scheduling backups at different times to reduce system load. C. Implementing a hybrid backup strategy with both local and cloud storage. D. Manually verifying data integrity after every backup session. Answer C. Implementing a hybrid backup strategy with both local and cloud storage. Explanation. A hybrid backup strategy ensures redundancy and data security by combining on-premise backups for quick recovery and cloud backups for disaster recovery. Option is incorrect because real-time replication can lead to cascading failures if errors are replicated. Option B is incorrect because staggered backups can create version mismatches. Option D is incorrect because manual verification is not scalable. A hybrid approach minimizes data loss risks and recovery time. Question 22. During a comprehensive review of a process that needs improvement, a company realizes that employee productivity drops significantly after system updates. What should be the next step to address this issue? A. Reverting to the previous system to maintain productivity. B. Providing hands-on training and transitional support. C. Extending deadlines to accommodate the learning curve. D. Allowing employees to choose between old and new systems. Answer B. Providing hands-on training and transitional support. Explanation. Training and support help employees adapt to the new system without long-term productivity loss. Option is incorrect because reverting back prevents progress. Option C is incorrect because extending deadlines only delays adaptation. Option D is incorrect because multiple systems reduce consistency. A structured learning program ensures smooth transitions and improved efficiency. Question 23. In a scenario where efficiency decreases across multiple departments, managers suspect that communication breakdowns are causing delays. What would be the most effective solution? A. Enforcing stricter deadlines to push productivity. B. Implementing an integrated communication platform. C. Reducing the number of interdepartmental meetings. D. Assigning a single point of contact for each department. Answer B. Implementing an integrated communication platform. Explanation: an integrated communication platform helps streamline collaboration, ensuring all departments stay aligned. Option is incorrect because strict deadlines don't solve the root problem. Option C is incorrect because fewer meetings could increase misunderstandings. Option D is incorrect because single contact may bottleneck communication. Centralized system improves efficiency and coordination. Question 24. While examining inconsistencies across various units, the business finds that customer service ratings vary widely between locations. What is the best approach to standardize quality? A. Implementing uniform customer service training programs. B. Giving each location autonomy to develop its own approach. C. Rotating staff between locations to share best practices. D. Focusing on the highest performing units as benchmarks. Answer A. Implementing uniform customer service training programs. Explanation: a uniform training program ensures that all employees follow consistent service standards. Option B is incorrect because allowing different approaches creates further inconsistencies. Option C is incorrect because staff rotation disrupts operations. Option D is incorrect because benchmarking alone doesn't ensure standardization. Structured training leads to reliable customer experiences across all units. Question 25. During a seamless transition where continuity must be maintained, a company is upgrading its infrastructure. What is the best method to prevent disruptions? A. Conducting upgrades in phases with rollback options. B. Replacing the entire system all at once to minimize transition time. C. Temporarily halting operations to complete the upgrade quickly. D. Running both old and new systems in parallel indefinitely. Answer A. Conducting upgrades in phases with rollback options. Explanation: a phased approach allows testing and adjustments while maintaining business continuity. Option B is incorrect because an all-at-once upgrade increases failure risk. Option C is incorrect because halting operations causes financial losses. Option D is incorrect because running both systems indefinitely creates inefficiencies. Phased upgrades reduce risks and ensure stability. Question 26. When scaling up operations that experience significant bottlenecks, what is the best strategy to ensure smooth expansion? A. Optimizing workflow automation to remove inefficiencies. B. Hiring more employees to increase capacity. C. Focusing only on high-demand areas for growth. D. Expanding infrastructure without altering existing processes. Answer A. Optimizing workflow automation to remove inefficiencies. Explanation: automation reduces human-dependent bottlenecks, allowing scalability without proportionate cost increases. Option B is incorrect because scaling through hiring alone is less efficient. Option C is incorrect because focusing only on high-demand areas neglects long-term stability. Option D is incorrect because expansion without process improvement doesn't solve bottlenecks. Process optimization ensures sustainable growth. Question 27. In an environment where different components must interact seamlessly, what is the best way to integrate new software with existing systems? A. Building custom middleware to bridge compatibility gaps. B. Replacing all existing systems to ensure uniformity. C. Forcing all departments to use the new system immediately. D. Running new software separately to avoid conflicts. Answer A. Building custom middleware to bridge compatibility gaps. Explanation: middleware acts as a translator, allowing smooth integration between new and old systems without disruption. Option B is incorrect because full replacement is costly and disruptive. Option C is incorrect because forcing immediate change increases resistance. Option D is incorrect because running systems separately creates inefficiencies. Middleware ensures seamless communication between components. Question 28. When improving a process that shows unexpected results, what is the most effective first step? A. Identifying the specific variables causing inconsistencies. B. Reverting to the old process to avoid complications. C. Modifying multiple elements simultaneously to see what works. D. Assuming that external factors are the main cause. Answer A. Identifying the specific variables causing inconsistencies. Explanation: finding key variables helps pinpoint the root cause of unexpected outcomes. Option B is incorrect because reverting to the old process prevents progress. Option C is incorrect because modifying multiple elements complicates diagnostics. Option D is incorrect because assuming external factors ignores internal issues. A systematic approach leads to effective improvements. Question 29. During an emergency response where multiple areas are impacted, what should be prioritized first? A. Assessing the overall situation before taking action. B. Stabilizing the most critical affected areas first. C. Communicating updates to all stakeholders before responding. D. Focusing on public relations to maintain the company's reputation. Answer: B. Stabilizing the most critical affected areas first. Explanation: immediate stabilization prevents escalation, ensuring critical areas are addressed first. Option is incorrect because assessment shouldn't delay action. Option C is incorrect because communication is important but secondary. Option D is incorrect because public relations should not override crisis response. Triage approach ensures effective emergency management. Question 30. When evaluating different approaches to problem solving, a team encounters multiple possible solutions. What is the best way to determine the most effective course of action? A. Testing each solution in a controlled environment before full implementation. B. Choosing the quickest solution to minimize downtime. C. Selecting the least expensive option to reduce costs. D. Relying on past experiences without further analysis. Correct answer A. Testing each solution in a controlled environment before full implementation. Explanation: testing solutions in a controlled environment, e.g. through pilot programs or simulations, helps identify the most effective and sustainable approach before full implementation. Option B is incorrect because speed does not guarantee effectiveness. Option C is incorrect because cheaper solutions may compromise quality. Option D is incorrect because relying solely on past experiences ignores new variables. A structured testing approach minimizes risks and enhances decision-making.